Hello and welcome. This is Trevor Crow. The show is Trevor and Friends. We're sitting here in Greenwich on an extremely chilly morning. At least it's sunny. Sitting with me today in the studio, I'm delighted to have the Greenwich Center for Advanced Counseling. Thank you. I've got Erin Keys, who is the executive director. She's also an ordained minister, which I just love. And she's worked on some domestic violence advocacy as well. And also sitting next to her is Joe Callahan. He is the clinical director. He's an LCSW, right? Licensed clinical social worker. He's also had a history of being in the Stanford school systems and being director of, right, student counseling
mental health.
and mental health.
Yeah.
That's a big job for 30 years. So that's a lot of experience. I'm really happy to have the two of them here in the studio. And there's a lot to discuss. First of all, your Greenwich Advanced Counseling, right, is working hard to help the community be well mentally. Is that correct? Am I getting it right?
Yes.
All right. So, Erin, tell us what the mission is.
So our mission is to make the highest quality mental health care accessible and affordable to anyone who needs it.
And where do people find you?
So you can find us at our offices. We're on Taconic Road in Backcountry, Greenwich. We're
Beautiful.
also online.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And so one of the big things, and I know that a lot of people are concerned about it, but the cost of mental health, of course. And most people know that I'm a therapist as well. So we all know it's very expensive. How do you help people?
So we really believe, like I said, in making mental health care accessible. So we have a three-tiered pricing structure. So for people who can afford it, private pay is an option. We have a sliding scale where the client negotiates with the therapist a rate that they can pay. And then for those who really need financial support, we have scholarship options available. And we can often make therapy as affordable as, say, what their copay would be with their insurance.
That's incredibly important. So I actually going to roll into a discussion sort of on a bigger world or global crisis out there. And I think all of us are just bowled over by all of the events that happened this past weekend. And Joe, if you want to jump in, one of the things that is hurting my heart is the story of Rob Reiner and Michelle, his wife, and allegedly their son may have killed them, as far as we can tell in the press. So talk to us, because I know you've dealt with families over 30 years. How do you deal with this? What do you talk about?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me when I hear about something like the Reiners or what happened at Brown University or what happened in Australia is that there's a sense in our country and our world that a real despair that we can't be connected to each other, that somehow it's me against you, it's us against them, those kinds of things. And that leads to people feeling alone, feeling like they're not cared for, and then they turn to all kinds of things that aren't necessarily helpful to them. Sometimes that's a substance abuse issue, sometimes to violence, to all kinds of ways of responding to the pain that they feel that aren't healthy and happy and helpful to them in their lives.
Yeah, it's truly incredibly hurt. It just, I think, hurts all of our hearts, especially at this time of year. Of course, the holidays brings up a lot, right, with all of our families, individuals, and couples. And I don't know, Erin, what are you seeing out there? How are you helping people? I know, again, you're a ordained minister. How do you approach this?
Well, I mean, I think on some level we're all really looking for meaning, right, on a very deep level. And I think a lot of the identity politics that we get caught up in, the polarizations, the conflict, the inability to talk to someone who might think or believe differently than we do, it's really just leading, like Joe said, to this sense of despair. And what's underneath all of that is a longing for understanding of who am I? Who am I connected to? Where is my identity found?
I'm so believing this. And I think one of the things when we initially started talking about why and how does therapy specifically help, and I think it comes to this place of having someone who sees you.
Yes.
Is that how you guys feel?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I think that one of the central pieces of therapy for us, for anyone who goes to therapy or is involved in the work is helping people feel seen and that they belong and they matter and what they're thinking about, feeling, doing matters in the world. And the more that a therapist can help someone feel seen, the more that person can see themselves and maybe see the things that are dark in their lives that need to be brought to the light in some way so that they can improve things and feel more like they belong. And that's a really important part of what therapy is about.
I love that question of who am I, right, Erin, and the need to be seen. And you started out with such an important word, Joe, which is despair, and why that brings us down and why it leads into these terrible dark tunnels, and what we can do as mental health professionals to really help people heal and feel like they are seen and they matter. And I believe this is a lifelong effort for all of us, right? When did you first, Joe, know that you were going to be in this type of profession? Although I'm not even sure. Actually, we are not a profession anymore. We were just declassified. Terrible. Hello.
Yes.
I do not understand that. But chiropractors are professionals.
Oh, well, okay, that's
there you
good.
go.
My chiropractor's great.
So what called you to this, Joe? What was it that you realized?
Well, I think for me the call was a combination of a deep desire to serve other people that for me comes out of a religious commitment and a family commitment, and also a deep interest in other people. I don't think anything, for me anyway, is more interesting than other people, from standing on the street corner just watching people go by to being in an intimate conversation with them in my office. So that's how I kind of got into this kind of work.
I love that, and I feel the same way, which is the stories out there. Every client that sits down, I just want to hear more and understand it and get my arms around it. So I fully understand that. Erin, how about you? When did you know that this is the area? Plus, you've got the additional side, which is the spiritual side. So when did you know that you wanted to do this type of work?
So I knew early on in college that I wanted to go into ministry. I grew up in a very inclusive, progressive, active in the community church, and that sense of community that I found there was a driving force for me early on in my life and career. And once I got into ministry, I really began to see the limitations pastors have when it comes to our ability to do mental health work. You know, often we're on the front lines. We see the couples who are struggling in their marriages. We see the children who might be struggling with anxiety or problems at school. We see the individuals who are kind of on the fringes. And they come to us, and yet we don't have the skill set. So bridging that gap between the folks who really need it and helping them find the right sources for mental health care was very important to me and how I ended up at the center.
That's amazing. And I was lucky enough to get to meet Erin through a project. We looked at the Center for Hope and Renewal and came up with some suggestions. And you've done this incredible job of kind of bringing it to the next century, right? To kind of to modernize, to look at what you can do with all of the talent and the capabilities within the walls there. And it's pretty cool what you've been doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your help in that process, Trevor.
Oh my God, it was very interesting. Sort of going back to this, how do we help those around us? How do we bring those people back in who are feeling this despair, that don't feel like they're seen, that they're important? And I think there's no correct or right antidote, but I think it's one client at a time, one interaction at a time. I really do believe that. And I'm wondering, what could we say to all the people out there during the holidays, which again, we all know that this is like, oh, you're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be having a great time. You're supposed to be connecting with your families. A lot of us, it's pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And as we were walking in the studio, I was saying, I feel like it's relapse time to a degree. Like people are really hurting. What are you guys seeing?
Well, I think from our perspective, I think the most important thing in anybody's life is relationships. And that's relationship to themselves, relationship to the people that are in their lives that are important to them, relationships to their work, to the things that make meaning in their lives. And for many people, that's also relationship to God, spirit, however they might define that. And because we know that human beings are require connection and belonging. We can't live without it. It is as important as food and water, and more complicated than food and water in some ways.
A lot more complicated.
And so, from a therapy perspective, what we really try and do is help people understand their relationships to all of those different aspects that I talked about and others, and trying to help them make those connections more fully, to see how being in relationship with other people, whether that's to a family member or to a friend or to a community of some sort, is what will help them come through things like despair. I mean, I think we all feel a sense of despair when we have 3 days in a row of horrible things. And of course, there are horrible things happening all the time. Those are just the things that we heard about intensely this week. But it's all around us, and so the only way through it is together. And so therapy is one tool for that, because you can be with a person who is, not in your life in other ways, but can be a really important, intimate, connected partner to you in your search for who you are and the meaning you want to make out of your life.
And kind of I'm going to roll kind of back to the sort of where we got started, which is why it is so important to have that connection with your therapist, right? That alignment. And it's pretty much shown across the board over long-term research and et cetera. It's really not the model that's being done. It's your connection and the safety, the secure attachment that you have with your therapist. So how do you guys work on that within your center? How do you
That's a guiding principle at our center. We say this to everyone who calls, that the quality of the relationship between the client and the therapist is the number one factor that determines a positive outcome from therapy. The first thing that we do is we're very intentional around how we match our clients and our therapists. I'll let Joe speak a little bit to that because he handles our referral process, but we take the time to get to know our clients, their needs, and match them with a therapist who's most likely going to gel with them.
Yeah, so we generally start with a conversation between me and the client about whatever their needs are, what's happening, what the concerns are that bring them to therapy. And then I really think through which one of our therapists would be the right match for them, depending on what their needs are, what the issues are that they bring to it. And then we make those connections. And then we always say to people that we really want to make sure that connection is the most important thing. So if it's not a good fit for them for some reason, I want them to come back and say,
great.
We need some other support. And the therapist's the same. The therapist sometimes might say, I'm not the right person for this person for whatever reason. And that's okay, because we know, as you were pointing out, that the relationship is the key factor in positive outcomes. And part of that relationship is being able to say, this isn't working, and what would work. And sometimes that's a simple conversation between the therapist and the client, and some kind of repair conversation. And sometimes it's, no, I need somebody different. You're not the one for me, which doesn't mean you're a bad therapist or a bad client. It's just that somebody else might be really important for you.
So you just said a very important word, which I think all of us needs a lot of work on, considering our political divide, but the word repair.
Yeah.
That is something that I believe that every single one of us needs work on, and to constantly go back and figure out how we do that. So how do you guys suggest repair in some of these family situations?
Oh, it's a really big question, obviously, because it matters what the circumstances and the context of that particular situation. But one of the things we tell people all the time, especially in couples work, is that the most important thing is not whether or not people fight or argue or disagree, is whether they can repair it. And so we want to work really understanding my own internal emotional experience and why it is that I'm reacting to whatever's happening the way I'm reacting to it. And if it's a couple or a family, how you're reacting to it and what that dynamic produces between us and so on, so that we can get to a place where we do something new. And I think this is the key thing that we're trying in therapy to always pay attention to for people is, what can we do that's new? What's different? What, we rather than doing the same thing. Everyone knows the classic line, doing the same thing over and over again is, I don't remember what it is now, but that idea that if I do something new might happen.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to help people with that all the time.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing thing when you do see a client shift even a little bit. And I think that's one of the things that is kind of the antidote to despair, which is hope.
Yep.
Right? And faith and the belief that we can come back around. We can take a look at what our behaviors might have done and might have landed. And one of the things that I recently attended was a short session with Ed Tronick, who did a lot of work on a still face. But what he keeps coming back to is this repair, the myelination. So we fire together, we wire together. This is your neurological pathways. But when you're able to repair, it strengthens. And I don't think that all of us have really fully understood the power of the ability to repair and go say, you know what, honey, I might have been not the nicest person last night.
Yeah.
I could do a little better there,
Which also goes to the idea of forgiveness and how important forgiveness is. And anybody who's in any kind of relationship knows forgiveness is a daily activity. It might be minor. Oh, I forgot to take out the garbage. Oh, it's okay. And to much larger ruptures in relationships. But how people work towards understanding how to forgive and how to forgive themselves and how to forgive others, that's all part and parcel of what it means to repair a relationship. And we do it constantly as human beings, because obviously we're constantly doing things that are either not thoughtful or misguided or malicious, and we need help to learn how to understand what's happened and learn how to forgive each other when those things happen.
Well, in therapy, and you could help me out too, Erin, on this one, but the Lord's Prayer, literally, you've got the higher power, you've got food, and the third thing is forgiveness, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially in theological circles, we talk a lot about the role of forgiveness, not even necessarily being something you do for the other person, but something you do for yourself. It's admitting that, you did something wrong. It's embracing your own vulnerability, your own humanness, and it allows you to be free and not carry this stuff around.
Right. And, there's the great line, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah.
And, I think that's one of the challenges that we have culturally at the moment, that everybody's drinking the poison and expecting other people to fall over. And sometimes that spills out in all kinds of terrible ways. But the injury that I do to myself by not figuring out ways to forgive, to repair with my relationships, to when I just hold on to all that kind of anger and resentment, that injury to me is huge.
It's not only just huge to you emotionally, but we know now in your
physically.
immune system, your body literally is going to be hurt by holding on to grudges. So I grew up in an Irish Catholic family. I think I'm more Irish than most people in Ireland. And the joke was always, well, do you know what Irish Alzheimer's is? It's forgetting everything but the grudge.
Yeah.
So
well, it's like the old saying, hardening your heart.
Right.
I mean, literally, you are.
So sad.
You are hardening your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so sad. It's just such a terrible way to live. And I do believe, again, part of our job between ministry but also therapy is giving people hope and the ability to work through some of those tough moments. And I think personally for myself, when I know that I screwed up, it's really hard. You feel a lot of shame and you're like, oh my God, I just hurt that person badly. Yeah. And it's really hard to be honest about that and take responsibility, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because and I think this is one of the things that's such a struggle about therapy generally, is that it requires vulnerability. It requires you to say, I don't know, I'm not sure, I'm lost, these kinds of things, or I made a mistake. And those are hard things for people to do for a variety of reasons. But I think when people feel safe and secure and cared for in those environments, then they're able to do that and explore the whys of how I got to a situation where I'm hurting people in my life, including myself. Then that's really can be very, very powerful. And you said hope, and hope is so important from a therapy point of view, because to be a therapist, you have to be a hopeful person because you've decided you're going to do something in your life that's about helping people change.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, you got to stay hopeful.
Right.
Because change is possible, but it's also hard work.
Yeah.
Change is hard. Right? And hope and grace, I think, go together.
Yes.
And I think that might be part of what you think about and help people with. Just it's a space, right? How would you describe giving people grace? What would you say that is and what it looks like?
Well, I think for 99% of people, we're all trying to do the right thing. We may not do it, and we get in our own way, and we do stuff that annoys our family and our friends and whatever, and they do stuff that annoys us. But at the end of the day, it's very rare that someone's intentionally trying to hurt you or to screw up on something. And so to try to keep that in mind and allow that opportunity, give people the benefit of the doubt. And that doesn't mean you don't say, hey, this was not cool, or whatever it is you need to say to kind of keep the relationship healthy and functioning with good communication, but to extend that olive branch of, I know that you were probably trying to do the right thing and it just didn't work, and here's why, and let's talk through that.
That is a great description because it's hard sometimes, especially when somebody hurt you. And whether it was unintentional or just oblivious or, I don't know, there's all sorts of ways that we can hurt one another, right? Just to be able to go, okay, I acknowledge you were doing the best you could in the moment, and that hurt.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we only have a couple minutes left before we're going to go to station break. But any thoughts, any ideas for people who are struggling out there right now in the holiday season, Joe?
So the holidays, while we all think of them as this exciting, beautiful, wonderful time of year, to quote a carol, they are also can be very lonely and hard for people for a variety of reasons. People might have lost someone this year. Their relationships and their families might be difficult. And so what I would say about this time of year for people is that it's really, really important that you give yourself grace. That you say, it's okay that I'm struggling, that I don't really want to go to the Christmas Eve event at my mom's house or whatever. I might anyway, but it might be hard for me, and it's okay that you notice these things and pay attention to it. But I think the other thing is that if your traditional dynamic that you might do on the holidays, like family, that kind of thing, is really hard, then find other places for yourself. Find other people, friends, other parts of the community. If you're struggling with addiction, for example, there's probably nothing better for someone who's struggling with alcoholism. Go to an AA meeting. Find a meeting to go to. These kinds of things, but just also who are the people in your life that you feel supported and cared for.
Love it. All right, we have to go to a station break. This is Trevor Crow. The show is Trevor and Friends. I've been speaking with Erin Keyes and Joe O'Callahan from the Greenwich Advanced Counseling. Thank you both for spending time with me today and having some great words for people out there today, because it's not so easy. It might look like fun and there's a lot of Christmas decorations, but it's still tough. We'll be right back, going to a station break.